A bitter custody hearing becomes a nightmare when a tech mogul's girlfriend pushes his pregnant ex-wife down the marble courthouse steps in front of rolling cameras. The fall breaks more than bones. It shatters lives and ignites a firestorm of justice. As the woman fights for survival, her Marine sister emerges from the crowd, vowing to bring them both down. What unfolds is a battle between power and truth that will grip your heart until the very end. Stay with us. You need to see how this ends.
I will. Hold on
Drop a
tight.
comment telling us where you're watching from, and let us know if you believe justice can truly win. The marble steps of the Chicago Federal Courthouse gleamed under the gray January sky. News crews clustered near the entrance, their breath fogging in the bitter cold. They'd been tracking the custody battle of tech billionaire Marcus Holloway for weeks, but nothing prepared them for what was about to unfold. A silver Mercedes stopped at the curb. The door opened slowly, and Sophia Bennett stepped out, one hand steadying herself, the other resting on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant, she moved carefully, her navy maternity dress flowing softly in the winter wind. Her face was pale but composed, the kind of calm that hides complete exhaustion. Cameras clicked as she approached the courthouse. Behind the growing crowd, another car door slammed shut. Crystal Monroe emerged, her crimson coat sharp against the dull city backdrop. Younger, confident, calculated, every step seemed choreographed for the watching world. Reporters recognized her instantly as Marcus's girlfriend, the woman who'd torn the marriage apart. The murmurs started immediately. Crystal's heels clicked against the stone as she moved closer. When she spotted Sophia at the base of the stairs, her lips curled into a cold smile. "Surprised you had the nerve to show up," Crystal called out, loud enough for nearby microphones to catch every word. Sophia stopped, her hand instinctively protecting her belly. "I'm here for my daughter, please just let me pass." But Crystal stepped closer, her perfume heavy and deliberate. "Your daughter," she laughed. "She doesn't even want to see you anymore. Face it, Sophia, you've already lost." Sophia's voice trembled. "Don't do this here, not in front of who?" Crystal interrupted. "These cameras, let them watch, let them see what a desperate woman looks like." At the top of the stairs, Marcus Holloway appeared in the doorway. His tailored charcoal suit was immaculate, designer sunglasses hiding his eyes. He stood motionless, watching the confrontation unfold like a spectator at a show. Sophia looked up at him, her eyes pleading, some flicker of recognition, protection, maybe even basic human decency. Marcus didn't move. His silence said everything his words never could. Crystal saw his indifference and smiled wider. "Even he's done with you." Sophia's pulse quickened. The cameras were still rolling. "Please," she whispered. "There's a child involved, our daughter." "That's your problem," Crystal hissed, "not mine." A murmur swept through the reporters. One cameraman raised his lens higher, sensing the story darkening by the second. Sophia took another cautious step up the stairs, clutching the cold railing. Her heels slipped slightly on the icy marble. Then Crystal moved, not to help, but to strike. The shove came fast and vicious. Crystal's hands connected with Sophia's shoulders, pushing with brutal force. The sound was sickening, a gasp, a scream, the scrape of shoes losing grip. Sophia's eyes widened in terror. Her purse tumbled from her hands, papers scattering like snow. She flailed backward, arms grasping at empty air. "She's pregnant!" someone screamed. Cameras flashed in rapid bursts, the red coat, the navy dress twisting, the frozen horror on Sophia's face. She hit the steps hard, her body crumpling as she rolled down the unforgiving marble. The sound of impact echoed through the plaza like a gunshot. Everything stopped. The sharp cold pressed against her cheek. She could hear people shouting, feet pounding, sirens wailing somewhere far away. Her vision blurred at the edges, darkness creeping in. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard Crystal's voice crack. "I didn't mean she fell, she just fell." Marcus finally moved, his steps slow and uncertain. He stopped halfway down the stairs, staring at Sophia as if calculating his next move. Reporters swarmed him, their questions coming like bullets. "Did you see what happened?" She pushed her, your girlfriend pushed her. Blood began to bloom across the navy fabric of Sophia's dress. Her hand trembled as she reached toward her stomach, lips moving in silent prayer. Then cutting through the chaos, a voice, deep, commanding, fierce. Move, get out of my way. A tall woman in a black leather jacket pushed through the wall of reporters. Her name was Rachel Bennett, former Marine combat medic, current federal prosecutor, and Sophia's younger sister. She'd been walking toward the courthouse to meet Sophia when she heard the screams. Now, seeing her sister bleeding on the steps, Rachel moved with battlefield precision. She dropped to her knees beside Sophia. "Soph, it's me, I'm here." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she checked for a pulse. When she felt the faint rhythm beneath Sophia's wrist, relief and rage collided inside her chest. "She's alive," Rachel shouted. "Someone call for medical help now?" A few feet away, Crystal stood frozen, her red coat vivid against the chaos. "It was an accident," she stammered. "She slipped, I didn't." Rachel turned her head slowly, her eyes dark and unyielding. "You didn't mean to," she repeated quietly. "You pushed a pregnant woman down marble stairs." Crystal stumbled backward. "No, Stop talking," Rachel said, her voice cutting through the noise like steel. "Every word you say is being recorded." The reporters fell silent, stunned by her presence. Rachel looked up toward the courthouse doors. Marcus still stood there, pale and motionless. "Marcus," Rachel called, her voice carrying across the plaza. "You saw it, say something." Marcus hesitated, glancing at the cameras. "It was an accident," he said finally, his voice hollow. "She slipped." "Liar," Rachel said, her jaw tightening. "There are cameras everywhere. The truth is already recorded." Paramedics burst through the crowd with a stretcher. Rachel stayed beside Sophia, holding her hand tightly. "Stay with me," she whispered. "You're not alone." As they lifted Sophia onto the stretcher, Rachel turned one last time to face Marcus and Crystal. Her voice was low but carried like a promise. "Everything that happened here will follow you for the rest of your lives." The ambulance doors flew open at Chicago Memorial Hospital. Rachel followed the gurney inside, matching every hurried step. "Pregnant female, 8 months," the paramedic shouted. "Severe head trauma, possible internal bleeding, fetal heartbeat irregular." Rachel's throat tightened. "Her name is Sophia Bennett, blood type B positive, no known allergies." A doctor in green scrubs jogged alongside. "BP dropping, get me a line in start fluids now." He glanced at Rachel. "You family, I'm her sister. Then you need to let us work." Rachel forced herself to step back as they wheeled Sophia through the trauma room doors. The sound of them slamming shut echoed like a final heartbeat. Through the glass window, Rachel could see flashes of movement, doctors surrounding Sophia, machines beeping, masks being adjusted. She couldn't hear the words, but she knew the tone. Emergency, crisis, life or death. 20 minutes later, Dr. David Chen emerged, his gloves stained, his eyes heavy. "Your sister's stable for now, but she's in critical condition. We had to sedate her. She's fallen into a coma. The baby's heart rate is weak but present." Rachel stared at him. "A coma?" Her body shut down to protect itself. "The next 72 hours are crucial." "Can I see her?" Dr. Chen nodded. "Only for a minute." Inside the room, Sophia lay beneath bright lights connected to wires and tubes. Her chest rose and fell gently, the monitor pulsing with faint green lines. Rachel stepped closer, her shadow stretching across the bed. "Hey, Soph," she whispered. "You're safe now." She reached for Sophia's hand. "I'm right here, just rest. I'll handle everything else." 3 weeks later, the courtroom was packed, every seat taken, every camera positioned. The trial of Marcus Holloway and Crystal Monroe had become more than a case, it was a reckoning. Rachel sat at the plaintiff's table, wearing a sharp navy suit. Across the aisle, Marcus and Crystal whispered to their lawyers, both looking pale under the fluorescent lights. The bailiff called for order. "All rise, the Honorable Judge Patricia Morrison presiding." Judge Morrison was a woman in her 60s, her expression firm and unyielding. "This court is convened to hear the case of the state of Illinois versus Marcus Holloway and Crystal Monroe. The charges include aggravated assault, child endangerment, and obstruction of justice. Rachel stood. Your Honor, before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that my sister, Sophia Bennett, cannot be present. She remains in a coma at Chicago Memorial Hospital. I represent her both as legal counsel and as family. The judge nodded. Acknowledged, proceed. Rachel walked to the center of the courtroom. On January 15th, my sister was attacked on the steps of this courthouse. The act was caught on camera. What began as an assault has exposed a pattern of manipulation, abuse, and cover-up. Today, the evidence will speak for itself. She turned toward the projector. Play Exhibit A. The courtroom lights dimmed. The video filled the wall, Sophia in her navy dress, Crystal's vicious shove, the sickening fall. The sound of Sophia's scream echoed through the speakers. For a moment, the courtroom was silent. Rachel's voice broke the stillness. There it is, the truth. A pregnant woman pushed downstairs by her ex-husband's girlfriend while he watched and did nothing. Marcus's lawyer stood quickly. Objection, the video lacks context. Context? Rachel turned to face the judge. The only context here is cruelty. My sister's presence that day was legally required. The defense wants you to believe this was an accident, but you've seen the intent with your own eyes. Judge Morrison lifted her hand. Objection overruled. Continue. Rachel faced the jury. Violence is not confusion, and the law does not excuse cruelty. Crystal broke down in her seat, mascara streaking her cheeks. I didn't mean it, she sobbed. I swear. Rachel didn't flinch. Regret is not innocence. 1 week later, Judge Morrison returned to her seat. The atmosphere was suffocating with tension. This court has reviewed all evidence, the judge said. The facts are indisputable. She paused. Crystal Monroe, you are found guilty of aggravated assault resulting in severe bodily harm. Your actions were deliberate and cruel. Crystal's hands gripped the table, trembling. Marcus Holloway, you are found guilty of obstruction of justice and criminal negligence. You used your wealth to suppress evidence and manipulate public perception. Marcus's face went white. Crystal Monroe, the judge continued, this court sentences you to 10 years in state prison. The gavel struck once. Crystal gasped, tears flooding her eyes. Marcus Holloway, you are sentenced to 12 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 8. You are also ordered to pay full restitution and lose all custody rights. The gavel struck again, echoing like thunder. Officers approached. Marcus tried to step back, but they took him by the arms. The flash of cameras caught the moment as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Rachel sat motionless, her shoulders finally relaxing. Thank you, Your Honor, she said quietly. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. Protesters held signs, Justice for Sophia and Truth wins. 1 year later, the courthouse steps gleamed under afternoon sunlight. A crowd gathered beneath a white banner. The Sophia Foundation grand opening. Sophia stood at center stage, wearing a cream blouse. In her arms, she held her daughter, Emma, now 18 months old, with dark curls and peaceful eyes. Sophia's voice was steady as she spoke into the microphone. A year ago, I stood on these steps with fear in my heart. I thought everything was ending, but today I know that what I called an ending was really a beginning. The crowd listened, silent and intent. This foundation exists for those still afraid to speak, for those who think no one will believe them. I was silent once. Now I know silence can be more dangerous than any wound. Applause rose, spreading like a wave. From the front row, Rachel watched with quiet pride. After the ceremony, Sophia walked to the base of the marble steps. She knelt and placed a bouquet of white roses on the 5th step where she had fallen. This was where I fell, she said softly, so this is where I begin again. Rachel stood beside her. You already have. Sophia smiled through tears. She rose, holding Emma close. Together they walked down the stairs, mother, daughter, and sister, toward the open plaza bathed in gold. As they reached the bottom, Sophia turned back one last time. The courthouse glowed behind her, radiant in the twilight. She whispered, "Thank you." Then she faced forward, her steps sure and steady. The world had seen her fall, now it watched her rise. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past, share it. Someone in your life needs to see that survival is possible, that justice can win, and that broken doesn't mean defeated. Drop a comment with the word justice if you believe survivors deserve to be heard. And if you or someone you know is facing abuse, please reach out. You are not alone and your voice matters. This is more than a story. It's a reminder that truth is stronger than power and healing is stronger than pain. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for believing that one voice can change everything.